Hi everyone, this is Laura from Grain & Company. Today I'm going to go through the project, the pumpkin project in your September subscription box. So you'll have your 2 pumpkins, you will have your 2 wooden hearts, and you will need your foam brush for staining, some paper towel or an old shirt for wiping down your stain. And yeah, that's all and your stain, you'll need that as well to get started. So what we're gonna do is go through some of the staining. When you look at your pumpkins, there is a bit of prep you might need to do with them. When these were cut, these haven't been sanded on the edges, so if you do like a little bit of a round edge, then just take your gritty sandpaper, the 120 grit, and just go and sand that edge so it takes off that sharpness. You can also do that after you are done staining, and it will just wear away that stain a bit, but that is fine. We're gonna paint the bottom of the pumpkins anyways, but I do like a little bit of a more rounder edge rather than the sharp edge. So I'm just gonna finish this last one here. Just give it all a wipe and you'll be good to go. So we're gonna stain the whole pumpkin, even though we're gonna paint the bottom, and that we can vary on how we do that. But we definitely want the top stem part of the pumpkin stained. So I just find it easier to not tape it all off, but to just do the whole thing. That way it's done on both sides. So I'm going to dip my brush, and I'm going to turn my brush flat, and I'm going to just wipe on that stain. You're going to do it on all sides, even the edges, so just squish it in there on the bottom. Might need a little bit more on the edges because it's a little rougher sometimes. And I'm going to flip this over. There you go. So you don't want to put the stain on too dry. You just want to lightly dampen up that you can go and wipe it off, and you can see how it blends really nice. Now, as I'm handling this, I'm getting very stained wet gloves. So now that I flipped it over, I'm going to just go back to the other side after and hold the edges and wipe that so I don't leave any stain marks from fingerprints and such. And we're just going to let those dry. And we're going to do it again. So I'm staining with the grain, so these are just sample cuts that were got done. So this one is going from side to side, but this one is going up and down. So the ones that you should get, you should be going up and down with your pumpkin here, because that's how we wanted them done. So this time I'm gonna actually wipe the first side off before I go to the back side. That way I'm not having so much on my hands when I flip it over, which is normally what I do anyways, but it's early in the morning and I haven't drank all my coffee yet, so I'm not quite functioning at 100%. Okay, so now I'm gonna flip it over and do the other side. Okay, so now I'm gonna wipe again. I'll just watch those sides and double check this side just to make sure, but other than that, we are good to go. So we're gonna let those dry. And then we will come back and we will continue on with the next part. All right, see you soon, guys. Okay, so actually while my pumpkins are drying, I'm going to do one other bit with you guys. So we are working with Victorian Lace White. This is one of the new colors, and actually this whole project is going to be done in Fusion's new colors. So we're going to do the hearts. Now normally I say just do the top side, but for this particular project the burnt edges are just not the look I'm going for, so we're actually going to do all the sides and the top. So you'll take your foam wedge. Mine's cut into in half, and it's been used once, so it's a bit smaller. And I've dipped it into my paint, and then I have blotted off. Now, it's easier to do the sides first, so I'm going to come in here and do the sides. That way I can hold it a little better without ruining my paint job. On the top, after I've done it, might have to squish that in there. I did have to take a toothpick before, or a little brush, to get that little point there inside the heart, but oh, that would be better. I might have to go back in after. Okay, so just do the sides. Doesn't have to be full cover, like perfect on the first one. We're gonna probably end up doing 3, and then you can do this a couple ways. You can either let them sit just on some parchment paper or whatever, but I find if you can tape, it won't stick to the parchment. So I'm just going to back this up a little bit so you can see. So you put some tape on your surface, that way they won't be bouncing up and down when you're trying to stencil these. Are you guys in my shot? There we go. Okay, so once again, grab your foam wedge, blot off most of your paint, and now you can come in here and do little bits without having to hold it. Now remember, you don't want to put too much because you don't want the paint to go down the side and just create like drips and such. So once again, just a little bit of paint. Gently cover that, and obviously because we're not doing a whole lot of paint, they dry within just a couple of minutes, and you'll just go back and you'll keep doing that until you get the coverage that you want. Now I like to sand in between coats, so once this is dry, I'm going to sand and smooth that all down, and then you might notice it will wear a bit of the paint more away on the sides just because of the burnt edge, but don't worry, it will cover nicely, and you will see a little bit of an undertone of the dark edge, but it's it definitely works better than just having the raw edge of the laser cut. So yeah, just keep doing that until you are happy with the look you're going for, and then I'll come back after and we'll go through painting of the pumpkins. Okay, thanks guys. All right guys, I'm back now. So my pumpkins are dry, and now I'm going to give them a sand so I can prep for the next part. So they're a little rough. The grain has raised based on the stain doing that. So just take your fine grit. This is the 400 grit, and you're just going to do a sanding so that they're nice and smooth. And you want to sand with the grain. Now with the tops of my pumpkins, I like them to be a little bit more distressed, and because we're not painting those, you can do that now, or you can do that later. So I'll show you what I mean. So we've sanded, and you can see it wears away a bit, but I'm just going to wear away that top a little bit more. Kind of just defines that area. So now take a piece of paper towel and give that a wipe. Now you are going to need some painter's tape for this, and you are going to be taping off across here. And give that a good rub so you seal that edge. You don't want the paint to bleed underneath. I mean, we are wrapping it with some ribbon, so if it happens to do that, then it should be hidden. So not a big deal if it does bleed a little under the tape, but so you'll do that for both of them. The part to watch where it will bleed, especially on the curved parts going around those edges, so just give that an extra rub there. Okay, and especially with the painting, what we're going to do, and I don't want any splattering on the top, I'm going to run another couple of rows of tape to make sure that I don't have to sand any paint off that I might splatter. So just gonna do this, cover that up. Okay. All right, just like that, and then we'll go on to painting our pumpkins, and I'll be right back. All right guys, I'm back. So we're going to paint our first pumpkin. We've given you two new colors that Fusion has brought out, and that's rosewater and eucalyptus. Now if you wish to change the color of your pumpkins, that's totally fine. We just thought we'd have some fun with a nice soft palette for this particular project. So what you'll want to do is we're going to do pink on the small one and green on the bigger one. Now once again, you're going to paint in the direction of the grain, and they should be cut where your grain is going up and down. Mine on this one is going side to side. And now you're just going to paint in whatever technique you want. So if you want a solid looking pumpkin, then you'll paint it solid. You learned about dry brushing and such. So you can really just choose to create whatever finish you want. I'm going to do a little bit of dry brushing. It'll be more solid. I'll distress it at the end so it wears away the edges, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to put a little bit of paint on my brush, and for dry brushing you're just going to blot some of that off, and then you can just go about adding light layers to it. Now I'm just going to play until I like how it is done. You are going to do the sides as well. With the dry brushing, you can see still patchiness of the stain come through. With the sides, I'm not going to get quite so fussy about that. Now when you do your sides, just watch that you're not creating a lip of paint on the edge. So make sure that you go back and kind of feather that out at the same time. Now I'm only going to do the front and the side at the moment because it's almost dry, but I don't want to put it down yet. So if you're doing two colors at once, You can go ahead, start your other one. When that's 2 sides are done, you can come back and flip this over and do the next part. So that's what I'm going to continue doing. I'm going to come back here in a second and show you the green one and be right back. So for when I'm painting these, I'm using a 1-inch brush. So I've got a 1-inch brush there, and then I'm going to use a different 1-inch brush for the other one. So depending on your brush too can always affect how your paint goes on. This one has a little smaller bristles, so it might not feather quite as easily as the one with the longer bristles. But either way, it will get the job done. It's okay, so I'm just gonna dip. I'm just gonna blot off some, and then I'm just going to start. So you already can tell it doesn't feather quite as easily as the long one, and so I'm probably just going to do more painting. And you can still get that dry brush look. I'm just doing a little bit more paint. I'm being a little patchy in my application. I tend to turn my brush sideways. You can still feather that out. And add that paint on the side. And I'm not painting the bottom, no one's gonna see it, so I'm not painting it. If you choose to paint it, that is totally fine with you. All right. So remember, watch for drips in the front, even in the back, because even when we go to do the back, you don't want too much puddling or an edge of paint. That way you'll have to just sand that off first before we get started. All right, so you can see it's still got some patches of the stain underneath. Now, if one coat is good enough for you and you like that look, you can be done once you're done the other side. If you want, and once this dries, it will always darken, but if you do want it a bit more color, then I would do a second coat. Now we're gonna bring out the pink one, put the brush away for a sec, make sure you've got no other color, and go at it with the next side. All right, here we go again. So you can see with those longer bristles that the paint definitely feathers a lot easier. So just so you know, when you're picking your brush, this is what, I know you guys have a 2-inch brush like this, that would be fine. You could still do that as well. So once again, I'm going to paint the sides, but when I do my second coat on the front, if I choose to do one, I won't need to do the sides again because they'll have enough coverage. Now just remember, feather the front so you don't have an edge. Now feather the back. All right, so that is where I am at right now. So we're just gonna let that one stand. Come back at it, and we're gonna do the green. Make sure I don't have any pink splattering around. Now, I always like to do my stuff on parchment if you guys don't already know that, so that way nothing's going to stick to my surface. Helps keep your area clean. All right, here we go again. So I didn't, like when I dip, I'm not dipping a whole lot of paint. Like it's still got some wet paint on, but I'm not blotting it off. And I'm just working in a smaller area, so that way I can control the paint. All right, and then remember, we're gonna do the sides. We're to feather the front. the sides. Okay, feather that and feather that. Okay, so I'm going to let these dry, and then I'm going to come back once they're done, and I'm going to show you a set that's done with a second coat, so you can kind of see just how much more solid it appears and whether or not you want to go that extra coat. You might just like it once you see a bit more color. So yep, so I'll be back here in a few minutes and I will give you a show. Okay, I'm back, and so this one isn't completely done yet because we haven't pulled the tape off, but as you can see, this is one coat, this is two coats, so you can see a bit more solid. I've distressed the edges, so I guess depending on viewing both of these, which one you feel you would prefer on your display. So that's the pink, and this is the green. So you can still see a bit of the stain pop through. This one's a bit more solid, so once again, you make your decision as to whether you like a more solid with just distressing around the edge, or you want it to have a little bit of more weathered look in on your pumpkin. So that is your options, or you can do something totally different. But yeah, that's what you can do, and whether or not you like the one coat, two coats, you can go from there. All right, guys, and so do whatever you decide. I'm not going to come back for a second coat. You guys just do what you feel you would like, and then I will be back for the next video. Actually, no, that's not true. I'll come back when these are ready to go for the rest of it with the heart of the ribbon, and I'll be back. Okay, thanks, guys. Oh, one thing I forgot, I guess I should mention. So if you go to do a second coat, or even if you don't do a second coat, you're still gonna wanna sand. So after your first coat, it's still a little rough with some texture, so you can use your fine grit sandpaper to give that a smooth. And then you can do either a second coat of paint or be done. If you want to really distress your pumpkins and get them really more rustic than this, then after, before you use your 400 grit sandpaper, go at it with the 120, the grittier one, and give those edges and distress it however you want, and then go back with the 400 grit sandpaper to give that finish some smoothness. All right, guys, bye. Okay, I'm back. I decided to do just another second coat with a little bit of spotting here and there, and as they're just dry to the touch, I want to get this tape off so I don't have any issues with any splintering, just with it being on so long, or pulling my paint off at the stem. So just gently pull that off. There you go. Nice little line there. If anything bled, don't worry about it. We're going to give those tops a sand again. And we're going to tie some cute ribbon. All right, so once I'm done the tape, I'm going to let these dry a bit longer, just because I want to be able to sand them and stuff, and paint doesn't sand very well when it's just dry. So I'll come back in a bit, and we'll continue on with finishing these up. Okay, thanks, guys. Okay, I'm back, guys. So right now my pumpkins are painted how I wanted them. I'm going to take my sandpaper and give them a sand so they're nice and smooth. Do both sides. And now if you did want them to be a little bit worn away more, you can use that gritty one. And just do that top, do the back. Same on this one. Good to do both sides. And then if you need to, just come back and smooth those over. Now you'll notice that one side might look better than the other. Sometimes, depending on the saw or whatever that they're using, it can give a little tear out. So we're gonna keep those tear outs bits to the back. So give this a good wipe down. I'm just gonna move this because it's got a whole bunch of dust on it. Okay. So now you're gonna take your ribbon and put it in the back, and then you can tie your knot. No fancy knot here, just tie it once, tie it twice, and pull that. Make sure it's on really well. And then grab your scissors, and then I like to put them together, and so that way when when I give them a cut, they can be angled the same. Okay, do the same way. Make sure they're even to start. Tight, put them together, and give it an angle. Let's do it this way. All right, there you go. Now you've got your pieces here. Now, depending how you want to stack them, like depending if you prefer, you know, the green one on your left or on your right, that's where you can decide where to put your hearts. You could put them at the bottom if you wanted, but being that we're putting them in a tray, I want to see my hearts, so I'm gonna put mine up at the top. So I'm going to put mine on the right hand side. So what you're gonna do, because there is adhesive on the back and we were only painting the one side, which I did forget to mention, I think, just peel it off and then just set it where you want it to go. Go. And there. Okay, and then one more. Give it a good press, and then they're done. Just like that, that cute little set. They can stand on their own. They can stand in the tray. You can put some greenery around it. But they're just a cute little simple shaped pumpkin, which we really thought were adorable. And we hope that you like it. And if you did your pumpkins in some other colors, I would love to see your combinations if you chose not to do the pink and the eucalyptus, or rose water and eucalyptus. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll be back with another one.